Глен, ти, як і я, багато років свого життя присвятив саме тому, щоб оновлена українська армія відповідала провідним стандартам провідних армій світу, в тому числі стандартам НАТО. Ми для цього рухались паралельними шляхами. Для цього ми зробили багато роботи, провели сотні зустрічей, списали там тисячі аркушів. І ми, на превеликий жаль, не отримали саме того системного результату, який би ми хотіли отримати. На мою думку, помилка в тому, що ми апелювали до керівництва Міністерства оборони, до керівництва Генерального штабу. Чи можна зараз про це говорити, що вони були не зовсім самостійні фігури і рішення приймались десь за горизонтом, хтось правив бал? Що ти думаєш з цього приводу?
I think it's actually much more complex than that. That would be a nice easy solution to think that someone at the back is pulling the strings like a puppet master. And I'm sure that there are puppet masters amongst the oligarchs who are pulling strings in certain ways because they've been doing that in Ukraine since independence. But I think you've got to look at a much wider spectrum of things, like just the simplicity of culture, that it's a power-based organization. And when you and I both know that when we've been talking to people, I mean, they are terrified of making a mistake. They're absolutely terrified of doing something wrong. And that in itself stops people. It stops people experimenting. It stops people doing anything different at all. And the second thing is that the rules and regulations around the defense system are still the rules and regulations of punishment. And they're not the rules and regulations to let people experiment or do something. So if you're not allowed to do it, people won't do it because they know they'll get punished, and they do get punished. So that stops the sort of the second level of action. Then there's this third level, which is just the general environment is not conducive to people being expansive and doing something new. There's too many people, for example. There's too many layers of people from senior officers downwards in every organization. And the people with the most ability to make change, the younger ones, are treated like clerks or at worst, coffee makers. So they're not actually involved in using their experience from the front line if they've got it for actually creating change. And then I suppose you can add corruption. You have to add corruption. There are a lot of people in the Ministry of Defence do not want change because their extra money or their extra existence comes from that corruption. And not just financial corruption, but corruption of the soul, where their future is tied to other people. And so they don't want to break that link because they'll see themselves as having no future. And when you add all these things together, and then on top of it, there is no clear political direction, you just don't get reform. It doesn't happen. Hasn't happened.
Я не хотів сьогодні піднімати тему, пов'язану з корупцією. Я думав, що ми пройдемося по більш глобальних і стратегічних речах. Але якщо ми говоримо про корупцію, то один з ефективних механізмів контролю, і поки що єдиний, на жаль, дієвий, це є громадський контроль. В той же час ми розуміємо, що, скажімо, якщо ми говоримо про громадську раду при Міністерстві оборони, то там 50% з цієї громадської ради не володіє комп'ютером. Або якщо ми говоримо про контроль з боку інших організацій, в тому числі грантових організацій, я далекий від того, що вони, всі з них, чи більшість з них переслідує саме національні інтереси і державні інтереси. Адже якщо ми візьмемо, до прикладу, НАТО, ну, скажімо, от проаналізуємо дослідження, яке вони провели по житлу. Ну, це дуже просто, там за 10 чи 11 тисяч доларів вони купили готове дослідження, трохи його причесали, і в результаті вийшло погано, навіть не в тому сама якість дослідження, а його результати, як на мене, це була просто амністія корупції в житловій сфері. тому що нічого конкретного не побачив. Чи, скажімо, там питання, котре досліджували по землі. Це ж не стосується НАТО, це такий приклад, котрий прийшов мені в голову. Дослідження, котре вони проводили про землі, я там в них в офісі прочитав 2 лекції, це взяли за основу, і також там нічого суттєвого, серйозного і системного продукту ми не побачили. Звичайно, я там дискутував, запитував щодо, чому саме такі результати, вірніше не результати, а що це, напевно, можна було б зробити краще. На що вони відповіли, представники, що, ви розумієте, в нас є люди, котрі платять нам зарплатню, і є відповідна редакційна політика, котрої ми, по суті, маємо притримуватись. Тому, знову ж таки, питання, чи гранти і організації – це є ефективний менеджер чи контролер за корупцію, чи навіть, я би сказав, за ефективністю в сфері системи управління. От, власне, як ти думаєш, на твою думку, хто повинен задавати тон у сфері цього контролю, де мають бути маркери, на твою думку?
Well, the obvious answer to that is the public oversight of the defence sector is the defence minister. And that's what a defence minister is put in place to do. Let's jump back from that and just talk about NATO. I mean, NATO is not part of the public oversight, however you look at it, because it has no authority or power, and it is not part inside the system sufficiently well to be able to give oversight. For example, when you talk about oversight, you know, I ran a prison and I had a board of governors, and those board of governors included 2 members of parliament and half a dozen business people, and they were allowed access to the prison at any time, day or night, weekends, week. They could walk around the prison freely, talk to anybody they wanted to, and they reported back to the Minister of Prisons and to Parliament. And they wrote a report every couple of months back to Parliament, separately from me. So that's public oversight. That is real public oversight. Now, at the moment, there is nobody that has access to the defence system to walk around and to write reports on it. So there is no public oversight. Now, in a democracy, the idea is that the minister is a civilian of sufficient political and worldly background that he understands what he's looking at. He reports to government, he reports to Parliament on what the Defence Ministry is doing, on what the Chief of Defence and his organisation is doing. It's his job to provide that oversight. Now, at the moment, we don't have that. We don't have that because the system is broken in terms of president, ministry off to one side, straight down to the president, straight down to the military. And that breaks this line of the public actually having some sort of control of the military system. So the whole of the upper level way of working needs to be reorganized if defense is going to be done, or you need a separate body. The Defence Committee, for example, must be given much more access to defence organisations, free access to defence organisations, to go and look at how things are being done, how money is being spent. That openness is missing at the moment, and I hope that under the new government that we will get that openness.
Останнім часом ми дуже багато чуємо про стандарти НАТО, про рух до НАТО, і напевно, що ніхто не говорить про це, не проведено аналізу, скільки часу нам потрібно, щоб вступити в НАТО. Яке НАТО буде на той момент, коли ми будемо вступати, і саме важливе, які там будуть стандарти. Я вважаю, що, напевно, треба сформулювати, що ми повинні рухатись не до стандартів, а за стандартами НАТО, з урахуванням інноваційних змін. Тому що першочергово, напевно, потрібно зосередитись на простих речах. це є формування електронної системи управління, електронних обліків, електронних реєстрів, забезпечення належної не тільки бойової і фізичної підготовки, а реабілітації. І саме можливо, як на мене, люди, котрі цим займаються і відповідають своїй більшості, вони не бачать проблем і їх, відповідно, не розуміють. Вони не можуть їх викласти системно, систематизувати проблематику і дати системне концептуальне рішення. А тоді, напевно, можна не тільки стати, якщо вирішити ці питання, якщо зробити глибинну оцінку і розуміння процесів, тоді можна йти не тільки до стандартами НАТО, тоді може Україна претендувати на те, щоб навіть впроваджувати власні стандарти. От що ти про це думаєш?
I don't agree with you that everybody's been trying to work towards getting NATO standards, because I think a lot of the system has not been working at all towards NATO standards. For example, the structures of organizations remain Soviet structures. Battalion structure is Soviet. Brigade structures are still Soviet. So at the fighting level, nobody's changed that at all. The doctrine is still Soviet. The rules and regulations are still Soviet. I mean, they are still the same documents that people had 20, 30 years ago. They have not been modernized. So your comment that people are trying towards NATO standards is not true. Lots of people are not trying towards NATO standards. If you ask me, which is the one area where you are ahead of everybody else, and that is at the moment the rehabilitation of disabled servicemen. And that is as good as any country in the world. But that's being run primarily by, to a large degree, by civilians with enthusiasm from outside. And so there is a NATO standard of something, because that's linked to a value, the value of people being put back into society. And this is a problem, because it's no good at any stage just concentrating on one area of NATO standard if the overall idea of the NATO standard, which is the values of NATO, are not the key things that are published. Now, the new president has highlighted changes in values. The new chief of defense has highlighted changes in values. And he said in his speech, in his opening speech, what values he wanted to change. And if those values are carried through, then you will see natural changes in NATO standards, towards NATO standards, from the implementation of values. And for an example, a simple one of training people properly before they go on operations. Now, for me, for NATO, the idea that someone can go on operations or can only be trained for a month or 6 weeks is completely the total opposite of what a NATO standard we would consider. So hopefully people will understand that things have got to be changed towards what NATO actually does, not what's written on pieces of paper technically, but actually what people do in NATO, how they do things. And that means people have got to go and look at it, they've got to go and examine it, and then they've got to come back and change the system so that it fits. Not pretend that it fits, but make it fit.
Я 3 роки проводив дослідження системи управління у сфері Міністерства оборони. За цей час мені довелось побувати, працевлаштуватись на різні посади, починаючи від керівника маленької комунальної організації, закінчуючи начальником управління, яке я, власне, вже сам і створив був. За цей час я був 3 радник міністра оборони діючого. Що це мені дало? Я зміг нашарувати ці управлінські механізми, рішення, бачення, так, розпочинаючи від двірника у Львові чи будівельника в Одесі і закінчуючи керівництвом Міністерства оборони. Все це дало змогу провести глибинний аналіз, і в результаті я зробив працю 30 сходинок до успішної армії і розпочав роботу над концепцією національної безпеки Україна 2035. І вже в процесі аналізу над цим своїм трьохрічним досвідом відкрилось багато як перспектив, так і загроз і небезпек, які найближчим часом можуть виникнути на шляху до побудови цієї армії. В повному сенсі цього розуміння. Яке в тебе бачення перспектив і загроз розвитку української армії, і що ти найближчим часом особисто плануєш робити по впровадженні своїх ідей?
I hope you're not asking what do I plan to do to threaten the army. It's two good questions. Looking at the first one, I mean, the prospects are as open as the new chief of defense and the president can manage, because there's a good basic structure of the brigades. They're not perfect. Lots of the vehicles are old. Some of them are short of equipment. Some of them are short of people, badly short of people. We know that. But at least they exist in a caucus. They exist in places, so they can be built upon. And that's where I think that the new chief of defense should spend his energy, is making the brigade, each brigade, as functional as possible. And to do that, obviously, they've got to strip out all the nonsense from the system. I mean, the system is huge. It's heavy. It's old Soviet. It's heavy. It needs to be slimmed down, made smaller. Training organizations made responsive to the brigade. At the moment, the brigades sort of feed the training organization. It should be the other way around. The training organization should feed the brigade. So there's the whole turnaround of thinking is required in that respect. The threat to it is that reform doesn't happen and the people keep slipping away, and that the brigades are left in a weak condition, and that they're not able to undertake a major fight. I don't think there's a problem with the Minsk, keeping the Minsk line as it is. The brigades are strong enough to do that. They can keep fighting separatists. And we saw 2 weeks ago with Azov, they can be quite effective when they want to be. So I don't see that's a problem. The problem is with Russia proper and the training for fighting Russia proper, not the training for fighting the separatists. So what am I going to do on this? Well, I mean, the first thing obviously is that I keep writing and I keep offering my experience to people to actually to be able to help them understand how to change brigades that are designed for static warfare in Donbass towards brigades that can be mobile. What's missing from it? What training needs to change? What leadership aspects need to change to be able to make the brigades do this? Especially the logistic aspects, because the logistics is probably the weakest part for it. So I will give my experience freely. Whether it is taken, I mean, we saw with the last minister, he wasn't interested in advice. And I know that several of others in the ministry were not interested in advice from anybody. But I hope that a new minister, new chief of defense, a new president will actually listen to the advice, that not only advice that I can give, but advice that I can get, because I can pull forward advice from friends, from the military, from in different countries, and from things that I've seen in other NATO countries. So all those things are available to the system. So I will keep working. I will keep being here, and I will keep writing, talking to people, and trying to encourage the system to change as quickly as possible.
У 2017 році Порошенко сильно втратив політичний слух. І в цьому зорієнтувалися відповідні команди і відразу написали прощальний марш. І не останню, першу скрипку в цьому марші, напевно, виконала якраз оборонка. Зокрема, і Міністерство оборони. Не кажу, що це обов'язково там керівництво, хоча без них також не обійшлося. Але я не про це. Оцей прощальний марш, він дуже потужно грає ще на сьогоднішній день. І навіть якщо його зупинити, то ехо і відлуння ще буде продовжуватись. На твою думку, які кроки мав би зробити президент Зеленський в сфері оборони, безпеки, реформування, щоб цей марш не застосували до нього?
I don't think a president can do anything to stop it in the way that you're thinking. I think what's important is the president must become not the senior general of the army, that he's got to step back from the army. He's got to give clear political direction. It may only be one page of direction so that the Minister of Defence and the Chief of Defence know what they have to do. No Chief of Defence can be a Chief of Defence if he has to keep asking questions. It should be clear to him what the requirements are. And a big problem with how President Poroshenko wanted to rule was that he wanted to be the general. He wanted to be the grand master of, I'm in charge of the army. And so people stopped doing their job beneath him. Mushenko stopped doing his job. He was waiting for instructions. And you can't work like that. And I think so also with President Poroshenko, because he sort of took upon himself the military, we say military mantle, the military shape, it meant that there was no civilian control of the military. He became part of the military. Zelensky, I hope, will stay away from the military, will stay above it as the civilian, and will look down and say, I give you my job, I give you your job, do it. Don't ask me questions. Just do what your task is. That will allow the system to balance itself better and to work better. But also, what is important is that he must give the instructions through the minister to the Chief of Defence, not bypassing the Chief of Defence. And this is vital because it's the minister is part of government. Government has the money. And if you start doing things outside of the money, you get it wrong. Now, there are something like 15 countries in Europe that have a trouble creating a proper defence force. In all 15 of those countries, the president is supreme commander. It's too much of a coincidence that being president and supreme commander equals a country that cannot make its budget and forces match. And it's because the president does not act as a civilian when he's thinking about the military. He's not asking the right questions, like, what are you spending the money on? How are you spending the money? Why are we spending the money on this? So I hope, as I said, that President Zelensky will sit above the military and he won't push his finger in too deeply, but will give the right objectives and ask the right questions and expect to see the right answers. If he does that, the system will work.